The Xilari had once been a proud and powerful race, known across the galaxy for their wisdom and advanced technology. Their homeworld, Velara, was a jewel in the vast expanse of the galaxy, rich in resources and beautiful landscapes. For centuries, they had been allies with the Galactic Union, contributing their knowledge and technology to the advancement of the galaxy. However, everything changed when war broke out. The Krog, a brutal and aggressive species, attacked without warning. Their armies were vast, their weapons deadly, and the Xilari were not prepared for such a relentless assault. The war raged on for years, and despite their best efforts, the Xilari were losing. Their once thriving cities were reduced to rubble, and the lush forests of Velara turned into desolate wastelands. The war destroyed their resources, their morale, and their hope. In the final stages of the war, the Galactic Union, who had promised their unwavering support, turned their backs on the Xilari. With the Krog forces pushing deeper into Xilari space, the Union decided that helping the Xilari would be a waste of resources. They abandoned them, leaving the Xilari to fight alone. The Union sent a final message: "We can no longer assist you. You are on your own." This message shattered the Xilari's hearts. They had always believed in the Union, trusted them to stand by their side in times of need. But now, they were completely alone. The Krog were too powerful, and without help, the Xilari faced extinction. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. The Xilari struggled to survive on what little they had left. Their cities were in ruins, their people scattered, and their planet slowly dying. They had little food, no medical supplies, and no hope of rescue. The once great race was on the verge of disappearing, forgotten by the galaxy they had helped shape. But there was one thing the Xilari still had: their will to survive. They had endured hardship before, and they were not ready to give up. They decided to send out a final message, a cry for help, to the farthest reaches of space. It was a desperate plea, one that they knew might never be answered. They reached out to the stars, hoping that someone, anyone, might hear their call. As the message was sent into the vast emptiness of space, the Xilari waited. Days passed without a response, and just as they were about to lose all hope, something unexpected happened. A signal came through, weak but unmistakable. It was not from the Union. It was not from the Krog. It was from humanity. The humans had long been regarded by the Xilari as a strange, unpredictable species. The Galactic Union had often spoken of humanity as reckless, primitive, and unworthy of serious attention. Humans had always been outsiders, causing trouble and challenging the established order of the galaxy. The Xilari had never paid much attention to them, dismissing them as an insignificant species in the grand scheme of things. But now this small, unexpected species was offering them something the Union had refused: help. The Xilari could hardly believe their eyes. Why would humanity, a species they barely knew, respond to their distress call? What could the humans possibly want from them? After all, they had nothing left to offer. Their planet was dying, their resources exhausted, and their people on the brink of collapse. But as the humans continued to send messages of support, the Xilari realized something important. Humanity wasn't offering help because they wanted something in return. They weren't seeking to gain power or influence over the Xilari. Instead, they were offering their assistance because it was the right thing to do. The humans' message was simple but powerful. No one deserves to be abandoned. We will help you rebuild. This message gave the Xilari a sense of hope they hadn't felt in years. Could it really be true? Could humanity be the one to offer them a chance at survival? Despite their doubts, the Xilari had no other choice but to trust these strangers. With the Union long gone, and the Krog still a looming threat, they had to take a chance. As the human ships began to approach Velara, the Xilari wondered what this new chapter in their history would bring. They had been abandoned by the galaxy, but perhaps humanity would be the savior they so desperately needed. The Xilari were about to discover that sometimes the most unlikely allies could turn out to be the most valuable. Days after the message from humanity arrived, the Scifi found themselves standing on the edge of something new. Their future, once uncertain and clouded by despair, now had a flicker of hope. The strange ships of the Terran Rescue Corps, humanity's most trusted aid group, slowly entered Scifi space, their sleek designs cutting through the emptiness of the void. The Scifi watched in disbelief from their crumbling cities, unsure whether to believe what was happening before their eyes. Could this really be the help they had been promised? The human ships were unlike anything that Scifi had seen before. They were smaller, more compact, but radiated an energy of purpose. They were not grand warships or massive fleets. They were designed to help, to heal. As the first human ship landed on Valara's surface, a team of humans disembarked, led by Captain Elias Carter. He was a tall man with an easy smile, his face weathered by the many missions he had led. His crew was a diverse group of humans, all with different backgrounds, but they shared the same goal: to help those in need. Captain Carter stepped forward, his eyes scanning the ruined landscape of Valara. He had heard the stories of the Scifi, their advanced technology, their wisdom, and their role in the galaxy before the war. Now, standing on their soil, he felt a sense of both awe and sadness. How could a race so proud, so advanced, be left to suffer? "Captain," one of his officers said, handing him a communicator, "the Scifi are waiting for us to make contact." Captain Carter nodded and turned to the rest of his team. "Let's make sure they know we're here to help, not to take anything from them." With those words, the humans made their way toward the waiting Scifi leaders. High Counselor Soraya, the Scifi's most respected leader, was among them. She stood tall, her silver-blue skin shimmering under the fading light of Valara's twin suns. Her eyes, once full of hope, now held the weariness of a race on the edge of extinction. "Welcome, humans," Syria said, her voice calm but heavy with the weight of years of struggle. "You have answered our call. But why? Why would you help us?" "We have nothing to offer in return." Captain Carter smiled, his voice steady and reassuring. "We don't need anything from you, Syria. We're here because we believe that no race, no matter how small or lost, should face extinction alone. You're not alone anymore. Humanity stands with you." Syria studied him carefully. She had heard the rumors of humanity's unpredictable nature. Some said they were reckless, others that they were dangerous, but she had never expected them to be so genuine. The offer seemed too good to be true, but the desperation in the eyes of her people made her reconsider. "Then let us show you what we need help with," Syria said. "Our planet is dying. The soil is poisoned, the crops are failing, and our people are starving. We are running out of time." Captain Carter nodded solemnly. "We've studied your planet's condition from afar. Our engineers believe we can restore the soil. It won't be easy, but we're willing to try. It's not just about fixing Valara. It's about giving your people a future." The Scifi leaders exchanged uncertain glances. How could humans restore what had been broken for so long? But Syria's curiosity outweighed her doubts. The humans seemed confident, and perhaps it was time to place their trust in something new, something that didn't come with strings attached. "Very well," Syria said, her voice soft but resolute. "We will accept your help." The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity. Human engineers and Scifi workers joined forces, tackling the many problems Valara faced. Humans set up machines designed to filter the toxins from the planet's soil, and Scifi scientists worked alongside them, sharing their knowledge of Valara's natural environment. For the first time in years, there was progress, not just in the physical recovery of the planet, but in the unity forming between the two species. During this time, Captain Carter and Syria found themselves in frequent discussions. Over long nights, they talked about their people, their cultures, and their shared history of struggle. Syria, who had once viewed humans with distrust, began to see them not as outsiders but as potential partners. She asked Carter one night, What is it that drives humans to help others? Why do you do this? Carter paused, looking out over the horizon, where the first signs of life were beginning to return to the land. Because we believe that everyone deserves a chance, he said simply. Humanity has learned the hard way what it's like to be alone. We know that we're stronger when we help each other. And right now, you're part of us. We fight for you, just like we fight for our own. Syria felt something stir within her, a feeling she had long forgotten. Hope. The Xilari had once fought for their place in the galaxy, but that fight had been lost. Now, with humanity standing by them, perhaps the fight for survival had only just begun. As the sun set over Velara, Syria looked at Captain Carter with newfound respect. For the first time in many years, she could see a future. And in that future, humanity wasn't the enemy. They were saviors. The days following the humans' arrival on Velara marked the beginning of a transformation. The soil, once barren and lifeless, was slowly starting to show signs of recovery. Human technology combined with the wisdom of the Xilari created a process that seemed almost magical. Large machines, designed by the humans, dug deep into the earth, filtering out toxins and reintroducing the nutrients needed for the crops to grow. It was a delicate operation, but every day brought progress, and every day, the Xilari could feel their hope returning. However, not all was well on Velara. Despite the positive change happening on the surface, the Krog were still a constant threat. Their warships, though not as numerous as before, still patrolled the outskirts of the planet. Their presence loomed like a shadow over everything. The Xilari knew that the Krog would not rest until they had claimed Velara for themselves. And though humanity's help was invaluable, it was clear that the Xilari would have to stand strong and defend their home if they were to survive. One evening, as Captain Carter stood near the edge of a Xilari city, watching the setting suns cast a golden glow over the landscape, High Counselor Syria approached him. Her face was solemn, and her eyes were clouded with worry. "Captain, I need to speak with you," Syria said softly. "We have received disturbing news. The Krog are advancing. They know we are rebuilding, and they will come for us again." Carter turned to her, his expression hardening. The Krog were ruthless, and the Xilari had suffered long enough. "How soon?" "They are expected to arrive within the next 2 weeks. We must be prepared," Syria replied. Her voice steadied despite the fear she must have felt. Captain Carter took a deep breath. The Xilari had already lost so much, and now they faced the very real possibility of losing everything again. But there was no turning back. Humanity had committed to helping the Xilari rebuild, and that meant fighting, if necessary. "We will defend Velara," Carter said firmly. "We've trained for situations like this. The Terran Rescue Corps isn't just about helping, it's about protecting too." Syria nodded, her heart filled with a mix of gratitude and fear. She had come to trust the humans, but the Krog were a powerful enemy. Could humanity's resources truly stand up to such a force? Over the next few days, the humans and Xilari worked together to prepare for the coming assault. The humans brought with them advanced weaponry and defensive technology, and the Xilari shared their knowledge of the terrain and the best places to fortify. They knew the Krog would not hesitate to destroy everything in their path, so every decision had to be made carefully. One night, as Captain Carter and Syria stood side by side, overseeing the preparations, Carter spoke. "Syria," he began, "I know it's hard to imagine, but we can win this. The Krog may have numbers, but we have something they don't: unity. The Xilari and humanity working together, combining our strengths. That's something the Krog will never understand." Syria met his gaze, her heart swelling with a sense of hope she had not felt in years. "I've seen the strength of humanity in the last few weeks, Captain. You're right. We are stronger together." The days leading up to the battle were filled with tense anticipation. The Xilari had never fought alongside another species before, but there was something different this time. The humans weren't just allies. They were family. They had saved the Xelari when they were abandoned by the galaxy, and now the Xelari would fight beside them. As the Krog warships finally appeared on the horizon, their dark forms filling the sky, the people of Velara stood united, ready to face whatever came their way. The humans and Xelari positioned themselves in defensive lines, their weapons at the ready. Carter, standing beside Soraya, gave a final command. "Remember, we fight not just for ourselves, but for each other. Together, we can drive them back." The battle began. The Krog attacked with brutal force, their ships descending on Velara like a storm. The humans' advanced technology clashed with the Krog's relentless assault, and the air was filled with the sounds of explosions and the flashing of energy weapons. The Xelari, though weakened by years of war, fought with everything they had, using their knowledge of the terrain to their advantage. For hours, the battle raged on. It was a fight unlike any the Xelari had ever experienced, but there was something different this time. They weren't alone. Humanity stood with them, fighting shoulder to shoulder, and together, they were making a difference. As the sun began to set on the battlefield, the Krog forces began to retreat, their ships damaged and their morale broken. The victory was hard-earned, but it was theirs. The Xelari had stood strong, and humanity had helped them hold their ground. As the last of the Krog ships disappeared into the distance, Captain Carter looked at Soraya, a grin spreading across his face. "You did it," he said. "You fought for your planet, for your people, and you won." Soraya, exhausted but proud, smiled back. "We did it, together." And so, with the Krog repelled, the Xelari and humanity stood side by side, knowing that the battle for Velara had been won, but the journey was far from over. The winds of change had come to Velara, and with humanity's help, the Xelari would begin to rebuild, not just their planet, but their place in the galaxy. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. The Krog had retreated, but the Xelari knew they would return eventually. Despite the victory, there was still much work to be done. The Terran Rescue Corps had done their part, providing support and protecting Velara from the invading enemy, but the task of rebuilding the planet and its people was just beginning. In the days that followed the battle, both the humans and Xelari worked tirelessly. The wounds of the land were deep, and it would take time to restore Velara to its former beauty. But with the Krog pushed back, there was now a sense of peace, a sense of possibility. One morning, as the sun rose over the horizon, Captain Carter stood on the balcony of the Xelari city, looking out at the endless landscape. The battle had left scars on the planet, but there were already signs of renewal. Green shoots had begun to poke through the soil, a clear sign that the efforts of the humans and Xelari were making a difference. As he stood there, Syria approached him. She seemed different now, stronger, more confident. The weight of leadership had always been heavy on her shoulders, but now it seemed she had found a sense of peace. The battle had proven something to her, that the Xelari were not alone in this galaxy, and that there were those who would fight alongside them. "Captain," Syria said, her voice filled with a mixture of gratitude and determination. "I've been thinking a lot about the future. Our people have endured so much. But I believe that with your help, we can rebuild. We can restore Velara, not just to what it was, but to something better." Carter turned to face her, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I think you're right, but this won't be easy. The Krog are still out there, and there may be other threats we don't even know about. We've got to be ready for whatever comes next." Syria nodded. "We will be. Together." The Xelari had always been a peaceful race, focused on learning, growing, and understanding the universe around them. But in the face of such adversity, they had learned to fight. They had learned that survival required strength, courage, and unity. The humans had taught them that, and now they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Over the next few weeks, the humans and Xelari continued their work. The Terran engineers and Xelari scientists shared knowledge, working together to fix what had been broken. The Xilari brought their understanding of the planet's unique ecosystem, while the humans provided the advanced technology necessary to cleanse the land and rebuild the infrastructure. As the planet slowly healed, something incredible happened. The Xilari began to realize that their connection with the humans went beyond mere cooperation. It was a bond, one forged in the heat of battle and tempered by the shared experience of rebuilding a broken world. They had not only survived the threat of the Krog, but they had come together to create something greater than themselves. Captain Carter and Syria spent more time together, discussing the future of their people. They talked about the changes that would need to be made, both on Velara and in the larger galaxy. For the Xilari, it was a time of rediscovery. They had been abandoned, forgotten by most of the galaxy, but now they had found a new sense of purpose. One evening, as they stood on the edge of the rebuilt city, watching the stars twinkle above, Syria spoke again. "Captain, I don't know how to express my gratitude for everything your people have done for us. You've shown us that no one is truly alone in the galaxy. But now, I believe we need to make sure that no one else is abandoned, as we were." Carter turned to her, his expression serious. "You're right. We can't let this be just about Velara. The galaxy is vast, and there are many species out there who might be facing the same fate. If we can, we should help them. We can be the force of unity, the ones who stand together against the darkness." Syria smiled, a sense of hope filling her heart. "I never thought I would hear a human speak of such things. But now, I understand. Unity, not just between us, but across the galaxy. If we can stand together, there's nothing we can't accomplish." The two stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their conversation settling in. It was a moment of realization, a moment that signified the beginning of a new chapter, not just for Velara, but for the galaxy as a whole. Humanity and the Xilari had forged a bond that would last far beyond the borders of Velara's atmosphere. Together, they would lead the charge for peace, unity, and hope across the stars. In the distance, the first signs of the next stage of rebuilding were visible. The crops were growing, the cities were being rebuilt, and the Xilari were beginning to see the fruits of their labor. But even more than that, they were beginning to see the power of what they had created together. Unity had become their strength, and it was that strength that would guide them into the future. As the stars glittered above, Captain Carter and Syria looked toward the horizon. The challenges ahead were unknown, but they no longer feared the future. With humanity and Xilari standing together, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. But Captain Carter knew that the threat was far from gone. The galaxy was vast, and the Krog weren't the only dangers lurking out there. But there was something different about Velara now. There was a sense of unity, of hope that hadn't existed before. As the days passed, Captain Carter and High Counselor Syria met more often. They spoke about their plans, not just for Velara, but for the rest of the galaxy. They both knew that the Xilari had been abandoned by the galaxy once, but they didn't want to see other species face the same fate. The strength they had found together had given them a new mission: to ensure that no one else was left behind. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, painting the land with shades of orange and red, Carter and Syria sat on a balcony overlooking the city. It had been a long day of work, but for the first time in a long while, Syria felt a sense of peace. The city below was alive with activity. People were rebuilding, laughing, working together. It was a sight she thought she might never see again. "Captain," she said softly, "I've been thinking about what you said before, about helping others in the galaxy. I agree. We have a duty to share what we've learned, but it won't be easy. The galaxy is vast, and there are many threats we don't know about yet." Carter nodded. He had spent countless hours thinking about this. "I know, but we can't just wait for danger to find us. We have to be proactive. We have to show the galaxy that unity is stronger than any force, that cooperation can overcome any challenge. Velara is proof of that." Syria smiled, her eyes shining with determination. and we will make sure the galaxy sees that. Over the next few weeks, they began laying the groundwork for a new alliance, one that would spread across the stars. The Scifi were no longer just survivors. They were warriors, united with humanity, and they would take that strength with them as they traveled to other planets, helping those in need. Their first stop would be Verda, a planet on the edge of known space, where rumors of an uprising against the local government had been spreading for months. The journey to Verda was long, and as they traveled, Carter and Syria spent countless hours discussing their plans. They had learned much from their time on Velara, and now it was time to take those lessons to the rest of the galaxy. They would build a network of allies, one by one, until the entire galaxy knew the power of unity. When they finally arrived at Verda, they were met with a chaotic scene. The planet's surface was covered in smoke, and explosions echoed in the distance. It was clear that the uprising had escalated into an all-out war. The Verthians, a peaceful species much like the Xilari, were caught in the middle, unable to defend themselves against the rebels who were now controlling much of the planet. Carter and Syria immediately set to work, organizing a plan with the Verthian leaders to help bring peace to the planet. They brought with them their advanced human technology, but they also offered something the Verthians needed more than weapons: hope. "We can help you rebuild, just as we did on Velara," Carter told the Verthian leader, King Alaric, a tall, noble-looking figure. "But we need to work together. This isn't just about fighting. It's about healing the wounds of your people and finding a way to live in peace." Alaric nodded, his eyes filled with a mix of exhaustion and hope. "We've lost so much already. I don't know if my people can handle much more." Syria stepped forward, her voice calm and reassuring. "Your people are strong. The Xilari and humans have faced worse than this, and we've come out the other side. Together, we can make sure that this war ends and that your people are given a chance to rebuild." For the next few days, Carter, Syria, and the Verthian leaders worked together to create a strategy. The Verthian military would take the lead, with the humans providing logistical support and the Xilari offering their expertise in negotiation and peacekeeping. It wasn't an easy task, but with each passing day, progress was made. As the final battle to end the uprising approached, the Verthians and their allies stood united, ready to face the rebels head-on. The battle was fierce, but it was clear that the tide was turning. With the help of the humans and Xilari, the rebels were defeated, and the Verthians reclaimed control of their planet. In the aftermath of the battle, as the dust settled, Carter and Syria stood together once again, watching as the Verthians began the difficult work of rebuilding their homes and their lives. "We did it," Syria said, her voice filled with pride. Carter nodded. "We did, but this is just the beginning." And as they looked out at the stars, they knew that their mission had only just begun. The galaxy was vast, and there were countless others out there who needed help. But now, with their new alliance of humanity and Xilari, there was hope for a better future. The galaxy was vast, but with each new world that joined the growing alliance, the promise of a better future became clearer. Captain Carter and Syria had traveled to Verda, helped bring peace to the Verthians, and shown them that unity could bring more than just survival. It could bring prosperity. But the work wasn't over. With the success on Verda, they knew that more planets were waiting for help. The Krog were still a threat, and there were other dangers they had yet to face. But with the strength of their new alliance, Carter and Syria were more determined than ever to create something lasting. A network of peaceful, united worlds that would stand together against whatever challenges the universe could throw at them. Their next destination was Kilora, a planet on the far side of the galaxy. The people of Kilora had long lived under the shadow of an oppressive regime. For years, they had fought against their rulers, but they were losing hope. The Kilorans were exhausted from endless conflict, and many believed that no one would ever come to their aid. When Carter and Syria arrived, they were met with cold stares. The Kilorans had heard of the humans and the Xilari, but they weren't sure if they could trust them. After so many years of war, they were skeptical. Why should we believe you? The Keloran leader, Admiral Nera, asked, her voice hard but not unkind. What makes you think you can save us? Syria stepped forward, her expression firm but compassionate. We understand your pain, she said. The Xilari were once in your place, abandoned, struggling to survive. But we found strength in unity, and we believe you can do the same. We're not here to fight your battles for you. We're here to show you that there's another way. Captain Carter added, we've learned that the true strength of a people lies not in their weapons, but in their ability to work together. If you trust us, we'll help you build a future of peace, one where your people no longer live in fear. Admiral Nera was quiet for a long moment, weighing their words. She could see the sincerity in their eyes. She had nothing left to lose, but she had her people to think about. Finally, she spoke. We've been fighting for so long. I don't know if we can change, but I'm willing to try. The alliance began immediately. The humans shared their knowledge of advanced military tactics, helping the Kelorans train their soldiers in new strategies. The Xilari offered their wisdom in diplomacy and negotiation, teaching the Kelorans how to build lasting peace instead of just fighting for survival. And then, the humans. Carter stepped forward, his expression proud but humble. We didn't come here to lead. We came here to help. Every species in this room is equal, and together we can achieve things we never thought possible. We've shown that cooperation is stronger than conflict. Let's prove it to the galaxy. With that, the agreement was made. The Alliance of the Stars was born. It was a promise to stand together, to protect each other, and to help those in need. They would share knowledge, resources, and technologies, and they would always be ready to face any enemy that threatened their new way of life. As the meeting continued, plans were made for the future. They would form peacekeeping forces, ready to step in when necessary, and they would help planets in need of resources or rebuilding. They would spread the message of unity across the stars, showing the galaxy that strength wasn't about fighting wars. It was about building something better. But not everyone was on board. In the far reaches of the galaxy, there were still those who believed in power through force. The Krog, though they had been pushed back, were still out there, and their leaders would not be content until they had control of the galaxy. But Carter and Syria knew that their new alliance would stand firm. Together, they were unstoppable. We've come so far, Carter said, looking out at the stars from the balcony of the Verthian Palace. But the real work is just beginning. Syria stood beside him, her gaze focused on the horizon. The galaxy is full of challenges, but I believe we can face them all. As long as we stand together, there's nothing we can't overcome. And so, the Alliance began its work, helping planets in need, building relationships, and ensuring that peace would always come first. They knew there would be difficult times ahead, but for the first time in galactic history, there was hope. With each passing day, more worlds joined the Alliance, adding their strength to the collective. The Krog might have been a threat, but they were no longer the most dangerous force in the galaxy. The unity that had been forged on Velara and carried to the farthest corners of the galaxy was stronger than any enemy. Years passed, and the alliance grew. Carter and Syria had seen planets rebuild, species prosper, and people come together in ways that had once seemed impossible. The galaxy was no longer divided by war and fear. It was united, not just by mutual interest, but by the shared belief that peace and cooperation were worth fighting for. And as Carter and Syria looked up at the stars, they knew that the future of the galaxy was bright. They had found a new way forward, and they had shown the universe that even in the darkest times, there was always hope. Together, they would ensure that no one would ever be abandoned again.